Hello, 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 and happy Thanksgiving from us here at Bleav. That's Bleav in Lions right here on the Bleav Podcast Network. I'm your host at Javanaugh87, Jack Kavanaugh, and it really is the best time of the year. We've got family, we've got food, and most importantly, we've got football in Detroit. And of course, you cannot talk about Thanksgiving and Detroit Lions football without talking about the first man in the history of the game to receive the post-game MVP turkey, a four-time MVP turkey recipient, making him the all-time leader in MVP turkeys won, a former all-pro nose tackle with the Detroit Lions. It's the governor, Jerry Ball. How's it going, Jerry?
How you doing, Jack? I'm good. I'm good, my man. Happy Thanksgiving to you. I hope everybody's doing well and you're going to get fat full today. I know we're going to have a festive day and, we're going to watch some football. We're going to watch Lion football. I went on and broke form and put on my jersey and stuff just in case they need to call me and stuff. I don't know if the plane going to get me there quick enough, but I do have my jersey, so I'm ready to go.
Well, you look good, and when you look good, you feel good. When you feel good, you play good.
Play good.
Play good, pay good. Pay good, eat good.
Let me go. You say they pay good? Let me go. Hold on. I'll be back.
Well, it's like we talked about some of these guys, they get $20 million for one sack based on the stats. I think we talked about that the first show. Jamie Collins with the Detroit Lions, and Jerry Ball could do much more than one sack for 20 million. I can tell you that.
Hey, that's just the modern game and stuff. And, I appreciate the acknowledgement during my day. We were getting paid handsome for the time, and this era right now for the time, shit. That's more than I made in all 13 years. Matter of fact, it might it doubled it for sure.
Whew.
Yeah. So
no kidding.
Yeah. As they say, anywho.
Anywho, we've got lots to talk about because we have a lovely day of Thanksgiving football ahead. And stay tuned for the end of the show because we're going to take a look at the lines that Bet Online is giving us for today. We're talking Lions Bears, we're talking Cowboys Raiders, and we're talking Bills Saints. You excited about those games, Jerry?
Well, I tell you what, the other game that, definitely is on high in the ball house is that Raider Cowboy game. First of all, I'm from Texas, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I live in an infested area of nothing but Cowboy fans. So I hear so much chatter. Now, when I was growing up, I was a Raider fan. All right. So just imagine being a Raider fan as a youngster in Texas.
Whew, I can't.
Yeah.
You must have been bullied pretty badly.
Listen, I have some classmates and stuff and high school friends, and we're Facebook friends, and year round, we're talking Cowboys versus the Raiders. And the thing is that because the Cowboys and the Raiders, again, Jerry Jones and Al Davis had a friendship, right? Those teams actually, truly have, I'm not going to say a rivalry, but we get to compete against each other because we would go to training camp together. All right. The 3 years that I was with the Raiders, we had one time we actually went to the Cowboys camp down in Austin, and twice they came to us. One time we had camp in Oxnard, and then another time we moved the training camp up to Napa Valley. So just having the Cowboys and the Raiders it's a game that I will watch, but more importantly, I got my high school friends. A couple of us are Raider fans, and the rest of them are Cowboy fans. And I'm telling you, not only Bet Online do I have a bet, but I got a bet over there that says the Raiders gonna beat the Cowboys. And then I have to go back to Dallas because I'm doing business in Dallas and went to school in Dallas. So then I get back into another cesspool of cowboy fans. I call them call pokes. But anyway,
Oh, Jerry, I feel so bad for you trapped down there with
yeah.
surrounded by all those Cowboys fans. I will say though, football is better when the Raiders and the Cowboys are thriving. It just makes the entire sport more fun.
Yeah, well, the Raiders has its place in the NFL. It's gonna always be looked at as like the villain, and the Cowboys being America's team is like the angelic, horrible people that exist. Because once you become a cowboy, you become tainted for life. But with the Raiders, but the Raiders is the same too, because they say once a Raider, always a Raider. And Al Davis truly lives that too. That's another thing that shows about Jerry and Al. They treat their players after the game very well. I mean, they don't act like, okay, well, we're done with you. Hey, how you doing? No, they involve them. They do things with them. They bring them in. They have them around the players and stuff. So those are the things that the Cowboys and the Raiders do. And I just went to a Cowboy game a couple of weeks ago on business. Now, again, I probably didn't even watch 6 plays. So I'm not interested in the Cowboy football at all. Just let you guys know. Only today.
Because it's Thanksgiving and because you want to win your bet, both with your friends and on betonline.ag.
Right.
Because it's Thanksgiving, and that means 3 things: family, food, football. And Bet Online has you covered all holiday season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. Bet Online remains your #1 spot for all the sports action this Thanksgiving. So head to our new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus with promo code Bleav. That's BLEAV to receive your bonus. And it's not just football either. Bet Online has pro and college hoops, NHL, boxing, UFC, and even your favorite Vegas casino games. So don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers for the 2021 season. Bet Online is the fastest and easiest way to bet all your favorite sports. Bet Online where the game starts. And when this game starts, it's going to mean a lot to the players. You said that there's just a different energy in Detroit on Thanksgiving. Can you kind of talk about that? What Thanksgiving means to both Detroit Lions players and the One Pride family?
Well, I tell you what, one is a tradition. The Lions, and I forget the reason why the Lions is the team that actually plays every Thanksgiving, but it was some type of agreement that was made years back. And the
Yeah.
Lions, so from the standpoint, I used to know exactly what happened. And I think it was, and then the Cowboys came into it, where it was the Cowboys and the Lions that was really playing most, but the Lions had the primary, seat for Thanksgiving, whereas they will always be a team playing on Thanksgiving. So just the tradition in everybody home across America. And I would tell you that in the city of Detroit, that's, first of all, you get the national audience that's paying attention. The city gets a chance to, kind of highlight, because you get the national crews that come in, you get the traveling circus, let me say it like that. So the NFL is going to see in all their type people. You're going to get all of the television. You're going to get a little international media, because again, everyone is there watching that day. So it's a real focus between those 2 games. And then when it comes to the players, um, players that are competitive are going to be competitive every game. But truly, when that game came for Thanksgiving during my time there with the Lions, it was almost like the players looked at it like it was a Super Bowl. That's how hype guys would get. For me, I'm always at that level. But
Jerry
for some
Ball's
guys,
always up here, right?
well, I'm always ready to get busy. If I got to play, it don't matter what bell and it don't matter who. I'm gonna answer the bell, and whoever it is, they got their hands full. I promise you that. With some guys that might not have to deal with the whole physical aspect of the game, say like a receiver. You know, he might run his routes a little crisper. He might run them a little faster. He might have a little bit more spring in his step. And it's noticeable because the lights are bright, And when you have, world watching and stuff, you get a chance to make your mark, if you can become one of the stellar players. But you see, even one game don't do it anyway. It's the consistency of being able to do it when the light's not on. When the Lions in Cincinnati playing over there in Cincinnati, and the only people watching it is that radius from Cincinnati up to Detroit. And it might be blacked out in Cincinnati because the whole stadium might not have sold out. So, you got to play when there is no circus, you know. But guys, during Thanksgiving, hey man, they turn it on, and it was a good thing, but it also shows that ebb and flow that if you're not ready to answer the bell every time, it would say why the inconsistency was there. Now, eventually, we got that weeded out though, so by 89, 90, 91, we didn't allow that, that was more guys that was already there. And it took us a while, first we had to earn our stripes to be able to set the tempo, to be able to decide how we're going to practice, And then once you prove, yourself, hey, then you do it on practice. And then anyway, it's just one of those games that, guys put a lot of focus on.
Especially when I was back in high school playing football, we'd call them the paper makers, the receivers, the running backs, the one scoring the touchdowns. They're all looking to get the highlight reel, their 5 minutes of fame. But like you said, it's consistency. You have to be like Jerry Ball, ready to go play football in a cornfield if you have to, because that's what the occasion calls for.
Well, I'm down south, so we don't grow a lot of corn. But if you was to say a crawfish pond or a rice paddy or something like that, because it's interchangeable between the rice, we grow a lot of rice, soybeans, and things like that down here in my part of the country. So I'm ready to get my hand in the mud. That's for sure.
Gotcha. Down here in I guess up here from you, but down here in southern Ontario, we're just surrounded by cornfields everywhere. So,
I understand.
Lots of opportunity to build a field out there. But when we talk about how you weeded out this attitude from the former regime and some of the former players of Thanksgiving, what is Jerry's favorite Thanksgiving game and memory? Is it after that, once things started to really head in the right direction?
You know what? I really can't. It's funny because I listen to guys remember a lot of football that they played, and my mind isn't like that, where I can just pick out a game. There are certain things that I remember I did like it's a play I made in college that I remember because hell, I was surprised when I seen it on film what I did. And that, there was one play when we played the Cowboys on Thanksgiving. I know I took Stepnowski and I must have drove him about 8 yards in the backfield. And I had him in one hand and was tackling Emmett in the other hand and stuff. And I remember that play because, again, I'm looking on film. I'm like, damn, okay.
I remember that play too. I didn't know that was on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, that was a Thanksgiving day. So just in the long short of it, I would just say that, when you making plays and stuff all the time, it's not really about which one as much as it is, did we win? I put forward a lot of effort and a lot of losing battles, because, when we wasn't that good in 87 and 88, I think we were like 3-13 and maybe 4-12 or something like that. And when we're playing that bad and stuff, like just like now, you got a lot of guys that won't be accountable, but they had gotten comfortable because really, and I'm gonna say this, and again, fellas, I'm just giving my opinion, and I'm sure that you have yours. But there were guys that were on the team that really shouldn't have been on the team. And they were mostly guys that were from that area that some way they ended up being on the Lions team. Okay, now I'm not saying that was across the board, but they had a lot of that type of nepotism on the team. So it wasn't always, to me, the Lions making the decisions to even keep the best player, let alone who they would bring in the camp. Because some of these guys had great relationships with Russ Thomas, and Russ Thomas would help them extend their years. But if those guys was to leave the Lions and go try to make another team, it wouldn't have happened. Now, again, fans, on Thanksgiving, I ain't trying to disappoint you. I ain't trying to throw shade. I'm just telling you the facts as I see it. This is my opinion. But I promise you, if other guys were asked the question and I was to whisper in their ear 4 players' names, I promise you they would say, yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. Okay. All right. So it's not, but when you're trying to win a championship, you can't have that.
No.
You can't. You got to put the best players, and it's not fair to the fans. Now they can get on camera. Everyone can get on the camera and say anything, but this is one of the things that made the Lions and I have a love-hate relationship, because I'm trying to win a championship, and I'm telling you, I'm like, well, I don't know what they're doing, and I would call bullshit. Now the reason why is because, again, I'm fighting 2 and 3 men every game. Ain't nobody else on the whole roster having to fight and play the way I'm having to play. I'm getting hit with illegal blocks. And you telling me that I got to earn mine and he's going to be giving it? No. Well, then this is how we would weed that out. So when we get in practice, instead of me just practicing with the first team, I would actually go practice on the scout team so I could put pressure on the people to show exactly who the Ducks were.
Yes, Jerry. I love
All
that.
right. So that's how we started. Like, okay, I'm approved. It's similar to what the guy did in basketball when he was with the
Jimmy Butler.
Bulls.
Yeah.
It's same type thing. It ain't that, but when you putting your heart in it, and then you over here playing a political game, and you know it's not football, well, I'm gonna deal with it in a football way. All right. And in that way, then some of that started moving away, and we started drafting guys that were, you know, and I'm not saying they didn't draft guys then. They didn't keep some of them at some places that they should have, And then when you start going play teams like the Chicago Bears, and you got Wilbur Marshall, Richard Dent, Hampton, Singletary, and all those guys that you're putting in front of a guy that really probably shouldn't have, well, depending on the college, might have not even started on some major colleges, but you're going to tell him to go now block that guy. No. That's why we're outmatched, and again, that's the past. I don't know what all being done, but just from an internal. So you ask, how did we get rid of it? We got rid of it by raising the standard. Then Wayne Fonts brought in Frank Gans. And Frank Gans was probably one of the most instrumental people because it didn't matter who you were. You could be an all-pro. You could be the starting quarterback. Frank Gans had everybody. Wayne made it mandatory that every player on the team had to attend the special teams meetings. And Frank Gans started raising the standards, and we all bought into that. But that was Wayne's system, So that's where it started. But by that time, we get Frank in there. They had gotten, some of the guys were older players, so they were going to retire anyway. But we also had gotten rid of some of the ones that was really, taking up space. And again, guys, I apologize to say that, but you guys know what I'm saying is true.
Yeah.
And that's why they don't like, I used to tell them in college, if you don't want the truth, don't ask me. I tell them in the pros, if you don't want the truth, don't ask me. And then I had to learn to put some discretion on it, but at the same time, you can't tell me you want to win a championship and you doing this nonsense. And that's part of the reasons why I kind of pushed myself, whereas I felt I needed to go, because I wanted to win a championship, and they wasn't trying, literally. Well, and again, that's the management then. I'm not saying that's what's now. I'm talking about then.
Yeah. It's just you can't have that. And there's been different cycles of Lions management where people have called it the country club, because that's where some of the older veterans go to collect big paychecks and not really put up the numbers. And people have also, you specifically, have called it a farm team, because the young players, when they break out, they go get their big money somewhere else. So those are two things
and championship.
And champions.
Lomas Brown left and got him. Ray Crockett went and got him. Eric Williams went and got it. And it's others just right off the top. Those guys became starters, but they're all in the same locker room, and we 2-3 players away. 91, we're 2-3 players away from having a Super Bowl team. And it's like they just blew it up.
And even for the modern day, you look at Ndamukong Suh, he went and did it. You got Matthew Stafford, who might go and do it. We can't have that anymore. That needs to be a thing of the past. But when we do talk about past Thanksgivings, everyone knows that John Madden, probably the greatest commentator in the history of the NFL, most people would say. And you spoke about how Mr. Madden would highlight the fact that Jerry Ball's taken on 2, 3, 4, sometimes even 5 blockers throughout his career.
I don't know about 5 now.
The little chip from the running back.
And 4 would be stretching it. I might have ran by the quarterback and we'll count it, but nah. Yeah, but but no, I would tell you, John Madden actually is probably still the number one voice that has ever called football.
Yeah.
He and Pat Summerall, and
what they duo.
Oh man, listen. And you know what would be good, is that, they come in on, I think they come in on Saturday. No, it's Friday. It's either Friday or Saturday. The media comes in. So those guys will be there, and they come out, watch a little bit of practice, and then they schedule the guys that they want to talk to. So in that process, a lot of the things that you hear the guys talking about is because they've already sat down and done an interview with the players and things like that, so that they can create their content and the things to talk about on air. That's how they get the information to do that. But they were like the best at doing that. I tell them and Terry Bradshaw, in terms of getting out of the player things that they could actually share. And John Madden did that very well. And he would actually go back. I remember one game, he went back and pulled a clip from when I was a running back in high school and I rushed for 1,000 yards. Ooh. And he played that clip. Now, when he played that clip, that just expanded people's mind on how they seen me, and now they understood why I could run so well. It's because I was running back before. So the way that I ran as a lineman, I was moving like a linebacker and a fullback, but I'm a defensive lineman. But what they didn't know is that I was a 1,000-yard rusher on the state championship team, which is the top class in the state of Texas, which was 5A. So he pulls that, and then it was like another stamp. So now people are talking about that, but he's doing that like during a Thanksgiving game or a Monday night game. So if you had John Madden calling, first of all, everybody's watching that game. And the way that he would focus on guys like myself, Cortez Kennedy, and Nate Newton is like he loved big body players that could play and could move. And he would just highlight, listen, what these guys are doing, you have to understand these other players are not moving and doing this. This is some superlative type stuff. And he would show, look at here. He's fighting two blockers. Now he's controlling this one and he's getting rid of that and he still makes the tackle, folks. That's the type of stuff that he's, if you look at a game on television, he would actually take it from the television view and break it down to the capsule where you only seeing what's going on with me and the lineman that you don't see when you're looking at the side view.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that, in breaking down the game, that also made him a great commentator. It's because being a head coach, he understood everybody roles and what should be going on. The DBs, the linebackers up front, what the offense might be trying to do, what are the basic standards, and what is beyond average. He was good at identifying like, hey, look, this is something special that you guys are watching. And he did that for me. And I tell you, I'm thankful. The only thing is that I have a lot of VHS tapes that have eroded, but that's the one thing that I would like to do if I could get the games he called just for my grandson so that when they're old enough to understand that their grandfather played, they could actually see how I played, because he really did create something that would be a great, I guess you say list of memories, that when I'm gone, I could live on in immortality,
Exactly. And it's just everything about John Madden. It's not just the breakdowns on the films. Like you said, it's the stories that he would get out of people, the stories he would create. He is just truly something special. And did your relationship or his relationship, because he was obviously the former head coach of the Raiders well before you were there, but did that add anything to your relationship with him once you headed down to the Raiders?
Well, yes, because he and Al Davis, again, were some of the guys that I would tell you were first class when it came to, their player concerns for former players. Well, their concerns for former players and the way that they actually would, when they hear that a player is struggling. And there was a player that's from my hometown, Beaumont, Texas, that's, one of the Raider greats in the 60s, 70s. His name is Warren Wells, who was during that time one of the greatest receivers. And he and Fred Biletnikoff and kind of played early, but long short, he had some mental illnesses and stuff. So he had some challenges and he would be walking the street. And this gentleman actually is my older sister's godfather. So when I would see him and come home from Detroit, I pick him up, go take him, get him something to eat, get him a haircut, things like that. And then Al and John and I were talking about him, and they like, man, do you ever hear anything? I told them and stuff, and man, they ended up getting all of his NFL stuff affairs, man. And he passed here in recent couple of years, I think, in the last year and a half. But I would tell you this: John Madden and Al Davis made sure that he got everything that he needed. So those days, those final days of his life, he was together. He still had the mental challenges, but he was in his home. He was taking his medication. His sister was definitely, his caretaker, and family took care of him. But John and Al, that's one of the things they would always ask. So that separated, and another thing impact that John had was on the video game world. You
Yes, it
know,
did.
first it started with Tecmo Bowl, and based on what John was saying, they recognized that he was having an impact, and then EA came out with Madden Football. And then from there, it's legendary. It's got to be one of the number one and number two games of all time,
Mm-hmm.
but he made that, and it all started right there from that whole commentating booth.
Yeah, just true greatness throughout the life of John Madden. Just a truly great man, coach, commentator, all around. And when we talk about his coaching career, in the minds of many, I Bleav he's still the highest winning percentage in all time NFL coaches. But another coach that everyone has up there as well is Mike Ditka, thanks to that historical defense of the 85 Bears, went to the Super Bowl. But Mike Ditka wasn't a fan of Jerry Ball, was he? Tell us about some of your battles with Mike.
Well, I would say it like this, okay? Now, I was the first player to have an NFL license that I actually manufactured T-shirts and leather jackets.
Whew.
So I'm not going to say that Mike didn't like me, because when Mike bought a Viper, his wife had a custom-made leather jacket from my company. So I
Okay.
know for a fact if they spent some money with me, they didn't hate me that bad, right?
It's just when you played for the Bears and the Lions against
Oh
or sorry,
man,
the
listen
Lions and the
here.
Vikings.
Oh, when I tell you that we had some knockdown, dragouts, some of the coldest days I've ever spent on earth was on Soldier Field. I remember one time it was a record during the time. It was like minus 27. The wind chill factor was minus 42. All right. We on the grass. The grass looked like lettuce that had been, I don't know. Sometimes when the lettuce in your refrigerator gets a little ice on it, that's how, because it's too cold, that's how the grass looked. And I'm
Oh.
telling you, it's like you own part grass and part ice, just depending on where you are. But Soldier Field and that stadium, man, you would feel like everybody would be just right up on you, because the seats didn't have an incline like that. It was the lower seats, so they kind of had an incline at a different angle, so it looked like everybody's just in a bowl. So Mike Dicker would be right there, always in the air with his little sweater on and stuff. And I mean, man, he used to talk so much shit. Excuse me. He used this Thanksgiving. I'm trying not to say a word like that. But he would be cussing me, and I would be cussing him back. And you know how sometimes the coach kind of is like partially on the field, but he know he's not supposed to be on the field, but he on the field because he didn't cross the sideline. And I would go stand in that little area and the grade. He'd come on the field and we'd be 5 feet apart and stuff. He's talking, get your fat ass over there. Ball. I say, yeah, I say, you send the ass out here one or two at a time. It don't goddamn, excuse me, I wasn't going to cuss you on Thanksgiving, but I apologize. You guys, y'all, don't hold me for that. But more importantly, it was a good exchange and stuff. And I tell you, it was some real battles too. And during that time, that the NFC Central was considered the black and blue conference. That's what it was called, the black and blue. Because in there, it was a physical it's a straight pound. Everybody played the same type ball. We here to play man-on-man football. You whoop my ass or I'm going to whoop your ass. And that was a style of play. Whereas in the AFC, they were more finesse.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So just in that conference, the Bears was probably, I would say, yeah, they probably had the most physical defense during that time in the NFC Central. So for the standpoint of our offense, it was always a tough battle. And I would tell you on Sundays, and tell you what, I did get in touch with Lomas Brown, so we are going to get him on.
Ooh.
When Lomas would play Green Bay with Tim Harris or Richard Dent, with the Bears. He knew he would have to be on his A game, and he and I would do extra work, whereas I would get out there and act like I'm a defensive end rushing him. And you'd be like, defensive end, you so short, how are you going to resemble? Well, what it was is that he knew that he had to keep his leverage point down. So what he was doing was making sure he would get down low enough to my leverage would be enough leverage to keep leverage on Richard. So it helped him keep his elevation down and his hips closed by just practicing it, because he's looking at a certain point. So those are the little things that would happen during that Chicago Bear week. Now I just played some golf with one of the coaches and Gentry, the running back, who was one of Walter Payton, and they was telling me just how it was, during the week that they would be playing, that they would play the Lions, how Jay Hilgenberg all week would be frantic, some of them. Now, this is what they said, Jay. I didn't say, I said. They said it. They said he would be a nervous wreck all week because he has to deal with 93. Oh, that's my number. But I tell you, that Mike Dicker and those guys and stuff, it was some good matches, though. I mean, some of the best football I ever played, I can tell you in that regard. I would say those battles with Chicago were some epic ones because, even though they had that dominating defense, our defense was answering the bell, and we had our own little defense that we was, putting it to their ass too.
Oh, I can only imagine the slobber knockers that would happen back between those two teams. And you've talked about your rookie year, seeing Walter Payton across the field and realizing you've got to tackle him. What was it like trying to tackle Sweetness?
Well, I tell this story every time, and I tell it on purpose because, here's a kid that's now a young man that's getting to play someone that first I never thought I would ever be on the field with him. Okay. Other than looking at him or something like that, but on the field where he has on the helmet and I have on the helmet, and it's my job to tackle him because I was a little boy in awe. So first game we playing, Soldier Field. When I see him come on the field, he's walking, putting his gloves on, and he's got that little Walter Payton little gait about him and stuff that I've been watching all those years. And I'm like this here.
With the mouth open and everything?
Yeah. I'm in awe. I'm in awe. Like in my mind, I'm like, damn, that's Walter Payton. One of the veteran defensive linemen comes over, he go, bah! I'm like, man, he say, yeah, and you have to tackle his ass too. he could see that I was in awe, like, hey, wake up. You got to play again. Don't be in that type of awe,
Yeah.
So literally the first two plays that they ran, the first play they came to the left side, it was a straight dive. I'm the rookie. So, of course, just like any pro team would do, we're going to test the rookie and see if he can hold up. So the very first two plays they ran were right at me. So the first time I got Jay like this and I separated. And in college, I used to be able to just, grab the one arm and just, wow.
Yeah.
Man, I did that with Walter, man. I swear, man, it felt like my arm was a saloon door of a Western and somebody just got thrown out the saloon door. I mean, I'm like, ooh. All right. I'm like, he run with some authority. Now, I already knew this, but I feel Walter Payton run. I feel that authority that I seen him running and bounce out and why they couldn't just get him down because he's like a little muscle, right? So the very next play, now they running the same lead. Now they coming this way. So this time I got Jay. I got rid of it, and then I jumped in front of him and hit him. Wow. and I'm on him, and it's like I'm face down, and it's just really he and I, and a couple of guys are around our feet. And I'm not getting up slow because in my mind, I'm like, I tackle Walter Payton. And he goes, pop. He slaps me in the helmet and says, get up, Rook. And I honestly said this to myself. He knows I'm a rookie.
He knows who I am.
Yeah, he knows I'm a rookie. Like, he done paid attention to me, like, oh, wow. Like, Walter Payton knows I'm a rookie. I'm like, so I felt good, but that was my first experience with it, and of course it was in the latter part of his career, so I could only imagine what he was if I would have caught him 5 years earlier.
Yeah. Just a phenomenal talent and a great man. Talking about a lot of those today. Great at their job, John Madden, Walter Payton, and just great people off the field as well. But I do have a question that I think I'm going to start asking for every game now. And we're talking about the bad side of football. Who is the baddest Chicago Bear that Jerry ever went up against?
The baddest? Well, I would say Van Horn was man, I would say Covert. He got me. He got me one time that I even told the coaches and Gentry at the golf tournament weeks back. I said, yeah, I owe his ass for that. So that was one of the hardest hits for sure. But I would say probably, with the combination blocks that it was Hillenberg and Bortz. And Thayer, they guards and stuff work well with them and stuff. So between those combinations, I say any one of those three.
Okay.
I had to deal with every time.
That's the thing. There's no days off for Jerry in the middle of that defense.
No, not during those days.
No, not at all. And so we got to talk about this game a little bit, I suppose. We've talked a lot about Thanksgiving and the Lions, but Jared Goff is back to starting this game, hopefully, but the Bears will be out without their quarterback in Justin Fields. Instead, they'll be starting Andy Dalton. And our friend, Adam Pac-Man Jones of the Bleav in Bengals podcast, he says Jared Goff is Andy Dalton. And this is coming from a guy who played with Andy Dalton. Perfect quarterback when everything is perfect around him. He is great, but as soon as there's pressure, he breaks down and doesn't elevate the team. That accurate assessment?
I would say it is. I would say if you were just going into the game at the quarterback position, we're even. I would say that too.
Yeah, so the rest of the team is going to have to step up and elevate today.
Yeah. That's what I Bleav. They're going to have to give their quarterback, what they need to support them to win the game. It's not, one of those things where I think either one of them, I think they can throw for the same yardage. They both got similar type, I guess you say defenses where they play decent defense, but just from a quarterback standpoint, neither one of them, if I was drafting, and I'm not saying they're not good quarterbacks because any guy that's in the NFL is good. All right. It's just a matter if you can respond to the pressure versus react to it. It's about whether or not you can keep your pause and elevate your team when things are falling apart. You see, that field general is truly that. Imagine if in war the general don't know what to do and the troops are saying, what do we do? What do we do? All right, but that's kind of how the quarterback has to be, whereas instead of letting the guys get to a point that they asking the question, he has to take control of it and say, hey, guys, let's settle down. Hey, I need more protection. I need you to do this, and let's get down the field, baby. Come on, one play at a time. Let's lock in.
That's
Take
a
control.
that's a very good way to put it. You can't have your general panicking when the first shell is dropped.
Cannot. And that's what I think Pac is talking about between both of them. Is that as long as it's not live fire and we can go through all of the drills and hell, I look good. Yeah, I'll be ready to shoot this. But as soon as that fire started, you started like, oh man, if they shoot, what we do? you know, forget all your training.
And I think we are a little bit lucky that we don't have to go up against Justin Fields today, the rookie out of Ohio State, because that man is a playmaker with his legs and with a cannon of an arm. He's got some refinement to do, but the man is talented. I'm excited to see what he can become.
Well, I think the one thing that the Bears did, they did draft well in drafting. I think they have a young Cam Newton. I think the one thing that he can learn is how to be a better, version. I don't think he and Cam have all of the same traits, but I think athletically and their field presence and stuff, you have to account for them if they're scrambling. But it's their arm once they are scrambling, you chasing or you stay in coverage. So
Yeah.
he that. And I think just for the future, I think the thing is that they at least know who will be their quarterback next year. They're not looking for a quarterback. That's a good place to be, even though he's not playing. But that is a good place to be.
Yeah, you got to build around these young quarterbacks, especially when they show as much promise as Justin Fields has. But when you look at the history of the Chicago Bears, it's lackluster a little bit. They are the only team in the NFL that does not have a quarterback who has thrown for 4,000 yards. The closest is Eric Kramer when he threw for 3,800 yards. And then their top five passers are Jay Cutler, who had a solid career there, Sid Luckman, no slouch, Jim Harbaugh, credit to him, Jim McMahon, credit to him as well. But then Mitchell Trubisky, who only played 4 years in Chicago, is fifth all time in the 102-year history of the Bears. That is not a good record of quarterbacks.
Well, yeah, I don't think that they ever actually had a quarterback that actually was drafted because of the arm. And then here's the other thing too that you have to pay attention. You playing in some inclement weather that will
Mm-hmm.
throwing the ball. Chicago plays outside in the winter. All right. And I will tell you, just like we would get excited to see who we would play on Thanksgiving, you better damn well look and damn well believe that the first thing when the schedule came out, you looked in November, December to see if you was going to Chicago or Green Bay in any one of those months. Because and this is as soon as you see the schedule, you look at your November and December. Do we play Green Bay and Chicago in any one of them months in Chicago or in Lambeau Field? Because you know for a fact that weather is going to have an effect on the game. So just imagine if 4 of their games, right, is in that type of weather at home in the second half of the season. That doesn't mean this quarterback is about to walk out there and start throwing for 400, 500 yards. Now Brady, okay, showed that it could be done, right?
Mm-hmm.
But different offensive system, different scheme. You get what I'm saying? And Brady's arm was not how they were winning.
Yeah, it's
All right.
the dink dunk run after catch.
That's right. Those safety valve passes, primary routes 1 and 2, then look for your safety. So
Beating him with his
that's
mind, not his arm.
right. So he would be efficient to get those. So I just, say just weather, I'm sure has a reason why none of them have ever been able. Now, McMahon wasn't a great thrower anyway, and nor was Jim Harbaugh. I can tell you that. I played against them. So we didn't walk into the game worrying about those guys lighting our ass up throwing the ball,
Yeah.
honestly.
Interesting. What was it like preparing for Jim McMahon? Because I've heard he's quite a personality as well.
Well, while he's on the field, it's like looking at a rock star, and he got a rock star attitude too.
Is he's talking the whole time?
Well, to his teammates and stuff, and if you do something to get his attention, he might say something to you. Like I know I've heard him before. He say, "Damn, could you hit me a little harder?"
Oh boy. Well, and when you go back through the history of the Chicago Bears, it is a lot about defense, and probably part of that is because of the weather and what you have to deal with. You need to slug it out. Unfortunately for the Bears, and fortunately for us with the Lions, they're going to be without Khalil Mack. He's had season-ending foot surgery. They'll also be without underrated defensive tackle Akeem Hicks out of the University of Regina in Saskatchewan here in Canada. So without two of their star defensive linemen, but then Robert Quinn is still there. And the last time we faced the Bears, Penei Sewell was beat twice by Robert Quinn for sacks. So you can't sleep on this defense even without their stars.
No, I think, just from the standpoint of, again, this is pro football, so everybody are pros. So you can't underestimate anybody that you're going to go out on that field today and face. I think with Khalil being out for the rest of the year, that does make the Bears have to make some adjustments, but it also will give the opportunity for other leaders to be developed, because when you are the key guy and then that third and long, everyone knows in the building the person that has the likely chance of possibly getting to the quarterback best is Khalil Mack. Now, the rest of you get a chance to play with that. So, but the pressure isn't on you to get there. The pressure is on him to get there. But now you have to step your game up so that you can identify yourself as being the answer to anything that Khalil can't do. Because Khalil is a hell of a player, so he's going to always have a presence on the field. But it allows those other players to really step their game up and find out who's going to play at the same level, and that again, it serves them well. They hadn't been having the best of season either, but where their defense is playing and the Lions defense, I think both of them are in some growing and learning pains, but they all both play solid defense.
Definitely. And with a team like Chicago, much in the same way with Detroit, you need these young players to step up and become more of a leader, because especially with the Bears, Detroit seems set with our future in the front office and coach for now, at least. But the Bears, there's talk that they may have a new head coach as early as tomorrow morning. So a report came out that Matt Nagy would be fired after this game, no matter what happened. And he's denied that. He said that he talked to the owners and they said that he is not at risk of losing his job. But then he was called into a meeting with ownership later that day, and then he canceled afternoon meetings for the team after meeting with ownership. That, where there's smoke, there is fire, in my opinion. It sounds like there is not a lot of cohesion going on in Chicago. And can the Lions take advantage of that? And how do the Bears respond?
Again, those things that make it out like that becomes real distractions. And what he said was the appropriate thing, because if you have your team going into a game thinking your coach is going to be a lame duck going into the game, it ain't shit he can say to them.
Mm-hmm.
He's already lost the team because you've taken it from him. So when you look at those type of scenarios, and then this is this his first year?
No, this is Nagy's. Nagy's been there for 5 years, I think now.
5 years. Okay, well, shit, 5 years. That's not surprising.
Yeah.
He's had a good run. Like I said, typically it's 3 now, but
Yeah.
5 years.
They gave him a little bit of an extra chance because of Mitchell Trubisky. They wanted to say, you know how politics go, right? Everyone is looking to blame someone else. So after the end of the season with Mitchell Trubisky, the GM Ryan Pace and the head coach Matt Nagy said, "No, we're good at our jobs. Mitchell Trubisky was the problem. Give us another chance and we'll fix it." And they got
Yeah.
rid of Trubisky and did not fix it. And another thing that the GM Ryan Pace did, he's given up a lot of draft picks for players, and it's moving up in the draft a lot. So he gave up a future first rounder, a future second, and a future six for Justin Fields. Moved up to to select an offensive tackle in the second round. And what we're finding when we look at the history of drafts, no one's really good at it. Every GM has as many busts as many hits. You're going to hit some, you're going to miss some. So does it make sense that GMs are trading up? I have to get my guy right now because I know best. Or is it better to do what the Lions are doing and say, hey, we don't really know as well, so we're going to take multiple kicks at the can, get as many draft picks as possible, and build that way?
Well, it just really depends on where the team sees themselves. I mean, if they actually feel that they're 3 or 4 players away, then, some moves like that might make sense. Now if you're in a total rebuild, then you want to try to get as many draft picks as you want. But the one thing that I would say that you can't do, right, is identify a player's result based on where he's drafted. It's
Yes.
more number ones that don't pan off, but I could tell you one Hall of Famer like John Randall, he was not drafted. He was a total free agent, walked on, made the team. Now he's a Hall of Fame. All right. Joe Montana, he wasn't a first round draft pick. He wasn't a second round draft pick. Joe Montana was a third round draft pick. So where you pick doesn't actually decide how you play. It might change some expectations if you're a first round or second round because they expect that if a team's going to take you that high, that you got to be someone that can walk in and make an impact. That number one player is with your quarterback, it's a little different because they understand you have to learn the system. But every other player, they want to know how soon is he going to get on the field, coach? How
Yeah.
does he? Is he picking up the system, coach? When is he going to play, coach? And then from there, you're dealing with it. But, a lot of these moves, again, you got to look at your personnel and understand what's close and building out what you want. And if those moves were going to allow us to get these final pieces, then you make those moves.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it too. There's nothing wrong with trading picks for established talent. However, you have to know who you are. You can't be get look at the Bears. Khalil Mack, he is absolutely worth 2 first round picks, but the Bears weren't ready as a team to get Khalil Mack, and because of it, they never went on a championship run like they should have with a star like Khalil.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes, the chances of getting a player like that, if you feel again you can build around and they got enough youth in them, you can make a move like that. But 2 first rounders, that would have been hard for me to give up. One
Yeah.
for sure I would have gave up, but two, kind of tough.
Absolutely. And again, it's a lot of this is about making money, and especially when it comes to the Chicago Bears, because when Papa Bear George Hallis Sr. passed, his eldest daughter, Virginia Hallis McCaskey, she took over as the principal owner. Her son, the late Michael McCaskey, took over as president. But the reality is the team was placed in a trust, and a trust's job is to make money, which is why the new president who took over for Michael McCaskey when he became the chairman is Ted Phillips, an accountant. And that's his job, is to make the Bears more profitable. And so when given the opportunity to hire Chris Ballard, we all know Chris Ballard, the current GM of the Colts, fantastic as his job. He cut his teeth with the Bears, was there for over 10 years. And then he goes to Kansas City. The Bears have the chance to bring him back. And he says, okay, if I'm going to take this job, we need to get rid of X, Y, and Z because I know where the bodies are buried. I know the problems in this organization, much the way a Jerry Ball knows the problems with the Lions. And so Chris says, here's what we need to do. Also, I want more money because I'm going to be doing more than you expect me to. And the Bears said no. They hired Ryan Pace. Ballard waits until 2017 to get the job with the Colts, and the rest is history. But that just speaks to a lot of the business of the NFL, doesn't it?
Well, again, the NFL is a business. It's an entertainment business. Let's take the football and understand football is the content,
Mm-hmm.
but entertainment is the purpose, right? And for bringing forward the actual production of football, there are some remunerations or benefits in monetary ways that they make their money. Teams make their money locally in certain ways that's different than the collective money that they share, as owners or members of the NFL. As an example, a lot of people don't know that, like, you own the Dallas Cowboys, but you don't own the star. That's owned by the NFL. You own the Detroit Lions, but you don't own the lion or the name. You just,
Okay.
all right. The NFL retains the ownerships of the logos, the intellectual property of the logos. They decide how you even use those logos. So Jerry Jones can't take the store and go put it on shit and turn around and sell it without getting it all approved, because collectively all of the owners own all of the logos together.
Okay.
All right. It's a business. So that's like going to Looney Tunes or Warner Brothers that owns all of its content, right? And you go in and you want to use Bugs Bunny. They say, okay, you want to use Bugs Bunny on a golf club. Okay, we're going to charge you X, because Warner Brothers owns that intellectual property. But then when it comes time to perform, you know, Bugs Bunny from cartoons. All right. So that's how they play out the entertainment that they sell to who? Television. Who does what? Sells advertisement, right? That pays the studio and pays, the production costs. That's essentially how it washes. So when the NFL is over here putting on their production, right? That means that there's a show. It's the game, right? They make their money. But when you go to the game, those receipts that they pick up at the stadium, that's the owner's money. That's not the league's money. Now they share in certain things, but how well those concessions and what you're selling in there and all of the trinkets and the captured audience type of business that's being done at those locations, that's the owner's trap. Okay.
Mm.
So so when you have an accountant, he's looking at each one of those business models to make sure that they're meeting the numbers, because he has to manage the money. Now, let's say he makes a decision and it costs them money. Do you fire him? Because he's his biggest concern, and the reason why he's hired by the trust is to keep the money.
Yeah.
All right. Now, how do you bring a football guy into it? All right. I think it has a lot to do with who has the stroke at the trust, what member can speak into it, how they have the voting aspects of it. That I think all that comes into play. So it's difficult. And I would say that, what makes this situation a little different than the Lions, even though it's the same type of skill set during the time when we were playing, Chuck Smith, who actually was a CPA at Ernst and Young, ended up taking the job under Russ Thomas, who was the GM. And when Russ moved on, Chuck replaced Russ Thomas. All right. So it was a hire from within that was already there. Whereas the trust went outside and got an accountant that could fill the role to help them make sure that they kept the fiduciary responsibility of why the trust exists. So it's good and it's bad too,
Yeah.
Anyway, but
Well,
it's business. It's the entertainment business.
lots of layers to the business world too, like in any business, not just the NFL, not just entertainment. There's always things going on behind the scenes that
Yeah,
we, the general public, will never be privy to.
never know. Never know. Matter of fact, that's how we look at the game. The game itself is the actual show. It is the circus. It is the movie. You go to the theater to see a movie, same thing. NFL
It's
game,
the
same
Coliseum.
same exact thing as entertainment. So they present it where you can come and enjoy it, and then they present it over these platforms and mediums that actually delivers this content to us, and we buy it. We eat it up, you know.
We
And then it gets to the fan part. Then they worry about the fans, because you're a fan regardless.
it's true. It's true. It's damn true. They have me hook, line, and sinker. In,
Yeah.
but it's just the way of the road. But we'll get you out of here, Jerry. We know you've got to spend time with your family for Thanksgiving, so we'll close things out talking about today's slate. We've got to get predictions for all of these games, and we've got the spread from Bet Online as well. So we'll start with Cowboys hosting the Raiders. Cowboys are 9-point favorites over Vegas. That seems a little bit steep.
I don't think they can cover that. So I'm definitely Bet Online. I've already placed my bet. They
Yeah,
Cowboys can cover 9 on the Raiders. I don't give
yeah,
them.
yeah. There's not a chance in the world. I think it's gonna be a 3-point game. Cowboys do probably win. The Cowboys are funny because they had that big loss to the Broncos where they were blown out. Then they blew out the Falcons, so they were back up. Then they got blown out again, or they lost to the Kansas City. So they're kind of in this roller coaster right now. I don't know what
Yeah.
to make of it.
Well, listen, I would say the Cowboys definitely have a good team, but the Raiders have a good team. I think with some of the things that happened with the Raiders and John Gruden, that definitely created a distraction and really knocked them off course. But before that, they were humming. I think though the team and Cardinals come in, play their game, they can win this game. Now with the Cowboys, it's a little different. I think that these guys, it's like if they hit their rhythm and shit, you can't slow them down. But I will tell you that they are much better with Dak Prescott at quarterback, man. And I am impressed with Dak, and I will say that Dak for the call folks is definitely in the top 5. And if they can ever get if Ezekiel Elliott can be for the Cowboys what Swift is for the Lions, then they're totally unstoppable.
Yeah, it's a spicy offense in Dallas, and the defense is building too. They're heading in the right direction. Hopefully, the Raiders are too. But our next game, tonight's game, the Buffalo Bills will head to New Orleans, take on the Saints as 6-point favorites on the road. And the Saints are always that team that you can't sleep on them.
No, you can't sleep on them, but I don't think that they're the same team. I mean, one, they lost their quarterback, and then, of course, it's not Breeze there this year. So I actually am going to roll with the Bills on that. I think the Bills can cover that 6 point.
All right, all right. Josh Allen, a big day from him. We're expecting in New Orleans. Did you ever play in the Superdome, or was that
Yes, I
after?
have.
How
No,
I've heard it's insane how loud it gets.
yeah. Those domes and the way that it picks up an echo is almost like you hear the voice and it has this little like if you're talking a tube and and the echo kind of carries, not so
Mhm.
that it's bouncing. That's how it sounds in there. It's like it goes around, but it's coming from
Oh.
every area. But it seems like the sound is just going around like So it is a Los Angeles, kind of how the Silverdome was too. And if you remember, all of them had that little round, so the sound ain't just bouncing side to side; it's actually moving around the ring.
I didn't realize that was the cause of it. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Saints at home. Hopefully they can hang with the Bills, but Josh Allen might be a little bit too much for them. 6-point spread on betonline.ag. But now for the main event and our first game of Thanksgiving. The Bears are 3.5-point favorites over the Lions today. I think that's ridiculous. I, of course, will be taking the Lions, but I need to hear what Jerry thinks, my football conscience, and I got to get a prediction for the final score.
Well, first of all, I'm taking the Lions over the Bears, and I think we're going to beat them. Clearly, their numbers don't work, so I'm going the other way with the Lions.
Yeah, I'm going with the Lions. I think with Jared Goff back, some time to heal up, he can help this offense score 3 touchdowns between Swift, probably 2 from Swift. Goff probably throws for 1, and they kick a field goal. So that's 24 for the Lions and 13 for the Bears. I think this is going to be a big win in Detroit and our first win of the season.
Well, I tell you what, it's the first time that I've actually worn a jersey, I would say, in years and stuff. And let me also put my disclaimer out there. I'm trying to give the Lions luck. That's ladies, that's why I wore my jersey. I know that you ladies don't like guys that's 35 and older to wear a jersey. It's not my attire. It's just for the game. It's in support of my team, and it's actually the good luck charm that I put it on. Oh, and Jack, make sure you send them the number. If you say that pay is good as it was, tell them that I'm a little out of shape, but I do have my jersey and I got my helmet right there. I'm ready.
Jerry Ball is rip roaring, ready to go for the Lions to call him. And I'm sure rip roaring, ready to go for Thanksgiving dinner. Any final thoughts before we head out, Jerry? Any Thanksgiving wishes for all of our friends?
Well, definitely. I want to say happy Thanksgiving to everyone. I hope everyone has a fun and festive day, enjoying your family, spreading love. Make sure you reach out to others during this time of the season, because nothing is actually given and we shouldn't take any day for granted. So enjoy the day and let's stay blessed.
Be thankful, not just today, be thankful every day for those in your life, your family, your friends. They all love you. And we here at Bleav love you as well. So thank you for tuning in for the Bleav in Lions podcast. And with that, are you ready to break it down, Jerry?
Yeah. 1, 2, 3.
We believe.
We believe. Peace.